we've been able to carry. So um, I'm really excited for all of you to listen to this presentation. Um, you'll get a kind of a quick look into what we've done in the past few years, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. The students have been doing a great job managing, thinking through some of these things. And one thing that I will preempt by saying is that it might not be reflected in this presentation as much, but something that's super important for us out of the Office of Sustainability is that we have student leadership. The students are the ones that are really leading the way here. The staff is mostly kind of in the background. Sometimes we'll provide context, sometimes we'll provide some advice, but all of this great work is really done by the students, and it's one of the main things that we want to see happen, students having opportunities to take on these huge challenges and dilemmas and eventually take it into the professional world after they complete their education. So without any further ado, I give you the NAU Green Fund Student Committee.
Thank you, Avi. I would just like to say NAU Green Fund's mission statement, which is the Northern Arizona University Green Fund promotes student participation in and provides funding for projects that reduce NAU's negative impact on the environment and create a culture of sustainability on campus. We have two main goals with our Green Fund, not only making campus more environmentally sustainable, but also engaging with campus and creating a culture of sustainability. And this for us means encompassing a intersectionality between sustainability, environmental issues, social and economic practices.
The Northern Arizona University Green Fund is the university's main source of sustainability funding. We support a variety of initiatives, including project proposals, research grants, and event sponsorships that help reduce NAU's environmental impact and promote a culture of sustainability on campus. Students, staff, and faculty are all encouraged to submit proposals, which are reviewed and selected by our student-led committee with support from faculty and staff advisors. This keeps the process student-centered while still grounded in guidance and expertise. The Green Fund is supported by a $15 student green fee collected each semester, which adds up to about $540,000 each year. That funding is reinvented directly back into campus that benefits current students as well as future generations at NAU.
All right, and I'd love to introduce some of our committee members, and these committee members, some of which you'll be hearing talk today about our amazing Green Fund. We have our co-chair, Kayla Tolamich, our other co-chair, Connor Gilliman, our secretary, Jada Schmierfeld, our PR specialist, Ashley German, our community outreach coordinator, Lainey Madden, myself, the treasurer, Michaela Harmon McIntosh, our internal resource coordinator, Tyler Packer, our inclusive excellence coordinator, Ani Johnson, and our grad student representative, Jolie Liberto. And these people are the reason that the Green Fund works so well. And they are the people that vote and put through most of these projects. And they really do help with getting the all around reflection of sustainability on campus. And going a little bit more into our 2025 fiscal year statistics, we've done a lot this past year, and it's definitely reflected on our projects. So, as you can see on the screen, some of our statistics here, we have had over $1,452,000 requested from us through event sponsorships, research, and project proposals. And over 535,000 of that has been awarded to projects across campus just in this fiscal year. It's really fantastic what we can see being done across campus. And within this, there has been over 68 projects submitted and reviewed. So this means that the projects have gone through our proposal process and we have brought them into our meetings to look through them and either approve or deny or send back for revision. And since 2012, which is when our NAU Green Fund has started, we have awarded over $6 million of funding across all of these different proposals for many, many different projects across campus. But we don't only work with the Office of Sustainability here on campus. We work with a wide range of different sponsoring departments that want to see sustainable expansions for their departments. As you can see in Figure 1 over on the left side of the screen, in 2025, we have approved funding from sponsoring departments such as the Office of Sustainability, the School of Arts and Designs, our University Transit Services, and even our NAU Police Department. And that's just some of the many departments that we have funded over the years that have come to us for projects to expand their sustainability goals. And as you can see in the figure to the right, in that approved funding, it's not just sustainability initiatives directly that we are seeing. We are also seeing initiatives in communication, waste minimization, energy, and tons of transportation projects. In this presentation, we will definitely be getting into some of those different breakdowns of those really big projects. But as you can see, we've been doing a lot more than just the average sustainability group.
Hi, so a little on the history of the Green Fund. We were first founded in March 2010, starting with only 8 projects in the first year. And as you can see from the previous slides, we have significantly grown from this number. We are now currently paid positions. However, the original committee was made up of dedicated students and their love of trying to better our campus's sustainability. Now diving into our decision-making process, our committee of 9 students each had their own unique role and served 4 complete semester terms. Every Friday, our committee with our 3 faculty staff advisors meet to discuss and vote on submitted projects, event, and research proposals. Our main focus when looking over proposals is how will this improve our campus's sustainability, what benefits will this bring to our NAU students? After every discussion, the committee decides to continue into the voting process or suggests the committee make edits to better the proposal. For those proposals ready to be voted on, a majority of vote is needed to pass and receive funding. And for those not quite ready, we offer support and feedback on how to improve the proposal. And additionally, we'll assign a committee member as a point of contact for any further questions that the committee may have.
This slide highlights how we focus on outreach and marketing to increase visibility and engagement around sustainability at NAU. A big part of this is our social media presence. We actively use mostly Instagram as well as LinkedIn and Facebook to reach students, staff, and external partners. These platforms help us share updates about events we're funding, Green Fund projects, and highlight sustainability wins on campus. The big goal is to try to make opportunities like funding or involvement more accessible.
Sorry. We've also been able to expand our efforts marketing the Green Fund through various tabling events. Through Welcome Week and Fall Fest, we are able to educate hundreds of students, especially freshmen, on opportunities that the Green Fund provides. However, my personal favorite of our tabling events is the Open Air Market. The Open Air Market is a weekly outdoor tabling event for student and faculty organizations focused on sustainability to market their efforts / sell their repurposed products. At this event, we are able to educate hundreds of students on the Green Fund's mission and keep that connection through a monthly newsletter that students sign up for at the table in return for reusable utensils, jar balls, and straws. Our outreach efforts also include short 2 to 3 presentations to classes, Greek life organizations, and clubs in order to reach the entirety of our diverse student population. One exciting event we have coming up is the Better World film series, which is a continued outreach effort to provide entertainment and education through movies that focus on diverse environmental issues.
Outreach is really about making sustainability visible. By showing people what's happening and how they can be involved, we help turn sustainability work into something that the campus community can engage with and participate in, rather than something that feels distant or abstract.
Right. The Green Fund is really proud to have contributed funding to a number of projects in the past year, all centered around our campus's goal to decarbonize. Some of these larger projects include electric vehicle procurements. Our university passed a policy in the last year that requires all new vehicles purchased by internal departments to be electric vehicles, and the Green Fund has been a resource to cover funding gaps between a department's available funds and the actual cost of an electric vehicle. One example that was previously mentioned is the Ford Lightning Police Aid Vehicle. You can see it in the little picture with our sticker. Um, the Green Fund helped the NAU PD acquire this. We contributed the $30,000 difference between the available funds that covered an internal combustion engine vehicle and the electric Ford Lightning, as well as the accompanying electric charging infrastructure that was necessary. Another project that the Green Fund has invested in is the Virtual Power Purchasing Agreement. This is a collaborative effort with ASU, Arizona State University, multiple cities such as Flagstaff, Phoenix, Tempe, all invested together in an off-site renewable energy system, which directly aligns with our climate action plan. And this virtual power purchasing agreement will account for 54% of emissions and NAU's purchase energy, which we were able to contribute by investing $35,000 in. A project similar in its stages to the VPPA is our currently underway public-private partnership energy project. This project holds the end goal of transitioning our heating and cooling plants on campus to a private company that will replace the current infrastructure with a renewable energy system. Because this transition is a tedious process, the university has hired an advisor to aid in the selection of a private company, and the Green Fund covered a large portion of the cost of hiring that advisor, which was $250,000. So a big portion of our funding, but it's all contributing to a really big goal. The Green Fund is also a resource that has been able to provide cash matches for grants awarded to the Office of Sustainability. One of these grants is an EPA bus electrification grant. This grant needed a $500,000 contribution to meet the cash match requirement, and the first fully electric bus is in its final stages of purchasing, which is really exciting. And another is aimed to be acquired next year. And so we were able to help those electric buses be acquired. Another grant that needs a cash match in order to be awarded was a water conservation grant awarded by WIFA, which is the Arizona Water Infrastructure Finance Authority. This project has used the allotted funds of $160,000 to convert areas on campus with water-intensive turf to native drought-tolerant plant species. And so we've been able to help with those transitions. These projects are all really exciting highlights of the largest, most notable projects that are currently underway. However, we do also continue to fund a number of smaller projects on campus that are brought to us by students and university staff.
As Kayla touched on, we've had some incredible projects passed this year, and I'd like to dive even further into other initiatives that we've funded that are or will have a lasting impact on campus. In 2021 and again in 2025, we funded CalSense water monitoring system projects, which is a technological system which combined reduced campus irrigation water consumption by 30%. On a campus situated in a high desert, these numbers are extremely impressive. We've also helped fund extensive fleet electrification efforts across campus. As Kayla mentioned, we helped cover the difference for NAU police vehicle aid, and we've also helped replace gas-powered snowblowers and a gator with electric alternatives. Through these projects, we eliminated tailpipe emissions and improved campus atmosphere by removing air and noise pollution. Speaking of projects that improve campus atmosphere, our Yellow Bike program has been a continued success. Students are able to rent a bike, helmet, and lock for free, providing them with efficient, sustainable transportation. Finally, the useful program drives home the impact Green Fund has had on campus. Useful is a company that helps campuses switch from single-use plastic to stainless steel and silicone dishware, as you can see in the photo. Through this, through this initiative, we've almost entirely eliminated single-use plastic containers from being used in campus dining, providing students with dishware free from BPAs and PFAS. In terms of future impacts for recently funded projects like the VPPA and P3 project, our VPPA purchase agreement is projected to reduce NAU Scope 2 emissions by 54%, and the P3 project will reduce NAU Scope 1 emissions by 42%. Huge emission reductions that are possible because of our funding.
One of the ongoing challenges we face is student involvement, especially building awareness of the Green Fund and the work that we support. Some students don't realize that the Green Fund exists or that their student fees directly contribute to sustainability projects on campus. Another challenge is project buy-in. Sustainability projects often require long-term thinking, collaboration, and sometimes behavior change, which can make it harder to generate immediate excitement or support. We also see challenges in aligning priorities across campus. While students are often very committed to sustainability, it can sometimes be difficult to get departments and campus partners to match that same level of involvement or urgency. Addressing these challenges is important because stronger engagement and collaboration ultimately allow us to have a greater and more lasting impact. If you're interested in learning more or getting involved, we encourage you to reach out to us. You can contact the Green Fund directly by email, follow us on social media to stay updated on projects and opportunities, or visit our website for more information about funding and involvement.
All right, thank you so much for listening. And now we're going to open it up for questions.
Excellent. Thanks so much. It's an amazing presentation. You guys have done a fantastic job of providing an overview of the Green Fund, and it's quite extraordinary the impacts. Particularly like that it's leveraging funds. You know, you'll match or use funds that are would have bought an ICE vehicle and just top those up. Really, you'll extend the impacts. So if folks want to log on or remove their talk directly to us, or if you want to put questions into the chat, that'd be great as well. So yeah, again, thanks very much for this presentation. I think that one of the questions I have is around the initial setup, and I can imagine that it was quite a lift to get this put in place. And I'm not sure if whoever can talk to that best, whether it's Avi or somebody
I'll
from the
probably
committee.
be the
Yeah.
best person to speak to that. So this was quite some time ago, more than 15 years now. And I was around here as a student this time. And so, yes, this actually took a lot of convincing of administration to go to the Arizona Education Governing Board. We call it ABOR, and to make this proposal that we would be doing something like this. The conversations around this started before the depression or recession it wasn't depression, recession, 2008. But a year before that, our then president made a carbon neutrality commitment by 2020 and didn't really have a clear idea of how we would fund something like that. So it was an initiative mostly by students, some faculty, that kind of came together, convinced the president to bring that towards the board, formed some bylaws, definitely demonstrated a desire from the students as well. So there was a survey and that demonstrated the students are willing to do this. Now, to be honest, I would say that the entire higher education system, and obviously that's not true for everybody, but for a lot of my colleagues that I hear speaking about their universities, charging fees has become a great way to bypass the political hot potato it is to increasing tuition. So a lot of things that we try to get done that we don't necessarily have state funding or tuition funding happens through fees, and that can happen with transportation, can happen with athletics, and so on and so forth. The Green Fund fee initially was only proposed to be $5, so it was minuscule compared to other fees, and therefore it was a little bit more palatable and possible for students to get behind this. Some years after, we had to essentially advocate for an increase to $15 so we can actually be effective. And definitely, I saw a comment just now about these being opt-in, opt-out. For sure, that is something that happens with the green fee. I think most students just kind of go with the default. Um, and therefore we have some funding to do some sustainability. It's not big enough to do some of the bigger deferred maintenance projects that we would need to get done that have a crossover between deferred maintenance and sustainability, but it's definitely substantial enough to where we can at least get the university moving in the right direction of accomplishing some of those things, and some of the projects the students described today demonstrate that.
Excellent. No, appreciate that answer. And what's interesting about that, it resonates for Canadian institutions as well. There's most of our institutions are public, but they're severely constrained if they want to increase tuition or fees. And so it is a complex issue, but students can get behind something like this if they can see the benefit, not just to the campus, but to themselves. And the quality of your students' presentation here is outstanding. So it's such an amazing tool to engage the campus and give real learning opportunities. So yeah, you can really see that. Some of the questions that have come in, do you have requirements for project awardees to report on their projects once they've been implemented? Is that a part of the whole process?
I have an answer for that one. We have three applications that you would fill out, either a project proposal, a student research grant proposal, or an event sponsorship proposal. I'm going to send our project proposal link to that in the chat. And if you scroll all the way down, it has a commitment to update at the end of that application that just says that if we give you this money to fund this project, you will update us on what you're doing. We definitely have had issues in the past where we've given the funding and then like it's kind of been a lack of communication after that. So we're definitely working to make sure that the communication keeps going even after we give them that funding. We also just added in our last meeting in that same document an impact measurement plan, which just allows people to think about the impact of their project in the original application so that we can work with them and make sure that that actually does happen.
Absolutely. No, excellent question and great ways to respond. Uh, Project management is so often about actually executing once you have it in place, and you have a limited amount of time, always limited resources. So it's great to learn about that in this way and find new ways. Do you ever have projects where they say, okay, we just need a little bit more funding? Do you have a process maybe, or where it's not going to happen and they're going to give the funding back, and there's so little time, I would think, to execute, but maybe there's opportunities that way? Do you have ways of dealing with that?
Yeah, I can totally speak to that. When it comes to projects like that, there are cases where we have projects that either go over budget or depending on what the issue is, depending on what's going on, they need more funding. We have a separate application for you to go through if you need more funding for your projects. Because with our current bylaws, we will not pay you more than what's in your original agreement and what we have agreed to give you. And if you need to go over that, then we do a whole separate process for applying for more funding. And then if that is agreed to and everyone signs the proper paperwork, then we will go ahead and add more funds to what is allotted to those specific groups.
Wow, great. You've thought of everything. Another question, thanks from Ryan. Do you have suggestions for how a much smaller regional college could start a program like this? Obviously with less resources and less capacity. Do you have experience to that?
I guess I could speak to that a little
Oh,
bit.
thanks.
Advice is always easy to give because the person dispensing advice doesn't take the risk of actually implementing the advice. I would say the best way to go is, especially for a public institution, is to get uh, ground roots kind of cultivated. So, a survey with students. I mean, whoever is going to do this would have to have a strategy. So they'll have to come up with the what and then communicate the vision behind that to students and see if they can get a buy-in. And if generally speaking the students give a buy-in, then capturing that buy-in and demonstrating that this is something that the student body would like to see and are willing to contribute in order to see some more sustainability occur on campus, um, would be huge. That definitely has been our experience. I would also encourage something we haven't done, some engagement with foundation. I've seen that in the past where you know public institutions and their foundations sometimes have this disparity of connection between what's going on on campus and um, what are the needs that are beyond what foundations usually provide funding for. And there could be an opportunity there if you tie it together with deferred maintenance that has a quick return on investment. There could be an opportunity there as well. Exactly how that would look, yeah, I would have to think about that. But thinking about all those pieces of getting students first, faculty and staff also involved in just showing a community mobilization around this would be huge. And putting together some coherent arguments for why. So it's not just the what. The why matters here, and the why beyond the environmental benefits and the more ethical, moral aspect of sustainability. Um, you can look at it from kind of a cold, strategic perspective that many university administrators might have to abide by, and that's sustainability is a growing factor in recruitment. It might not be the first thing that people look at when they choose which institution to attend, but it could very well be something that they do look at. Most students and look for the degree program they're looking for. Parents care about safety. That's a huge thing. Affordability, but then somewhere there, sustainability can be a tiebreaker, and demonstrating that through a commitment to a green fund can be a good argument when you're trying to move forward with this. Another argument can be that this is an awesome academic opportunity for students, and on the job type of training. I can tell you that I see students really grow when they receive this level of responsibility. They discover that they are more capable than they thought in some ways, and they start really engaging in their critical thinking capabilities, and it's a great educational and professional training opportunity. So thinking about all of that together, ground roots, getting interest from students, coming up with the best possible structure that this could be for the university, and then making the right arguments for why this is a wise way to go forward.
Excellent. No, that's a great response. Really appreciate that. Was the student union specifically engaged in the process of creating it at all? I can imagine they sometimes could be a very good advocate for a program like this.
We didn't have a student union like that. We have student clubs,
Oh,
and
okay.
our green club on campus, they're called the Green Jacks, was far more active back then. There was a little bit more. I know that we live in the era of activism, but because of politics, things have kind of got muddied up and all of that. So now it's a little bit more challenging, but back then the student club was definitely exerting some pressure, and just pushing forward with this, and in a positive way, not
Yeah,
necessarily in a negative way. We've definitely experienced some negative, I mean, not negative as far as the outcomes being negative, but protesting and things like that that have helped the university become more sustainable. But for the Green Fund in particular, it was more like we'll mobilize and help.
excellent. Another question that's come up is how do you work to get administration and student body aligned with projects to be successful? You've got quite a few different moving parts, and I'm sure that choosing the projects is part of that, making sure that it's aligned with what facilities or other administrative bodies might want to do. So yeah, how have you found that? You've been at it for a few years? Are there certain things that make it more likely to be successful?
I wish I could let the student take that on. Maybe I go ahead, Ashley. Try and
I
then
can
I'll.
definitely talk to the student body part of that. I think we're very lucky at NAU that majority of the student body already is interested in sustainability and cares about it a lot. It was a big part of the reason I chose this school, even though I'm a communication and psychology student, but I still am super passionate about sustainability and it's at the forefront of every decision that I make. I think a good rule of thumb is that if you give students like an easy way to choose a sustainability option, they will choose that. I think a good example is our useful program. There's been very little backlash with students choosing like the useful bowls over a single-use plastic container because it's been easier for them to choose the useful bowls rather than a plastic container. I got some data recently overall at our university that approximately 84% of NAU departments offer at least one course that is sustainability focused or inclusive. And then 14.2% of all courses at NAU are sustainability focused. So I think just overall, we're very lucky to have a university that our student population really cares about sustainability, and they're pretty often always on board.
Excellent.
Add,
Oh, sorry, I have to
sorry.
say, yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Adding on to what Ash said, we also really try to reiterate in our presentations and our outreach efforts that we're student funded to also give back to students. So, like Jada kind of mentioned with the structure and governance of the Green Fund, we offer research grants and we have a portion of money of the Green Fund that is only made or like put aside to fund research grants. And we also have event sponsorships, which have been very helpful to help like students who are part of clubs who might not even be sustainability focused. For example, we had like a really cool geography focused event that kind of tied into, sustainability that we were able to fund. So just kind of funding and giving the opportunity to fund certain events like that that tie into sustainability and give back to students really helps increase our student buy-in.
Absolutely. Spreading that kind of benefit around and making sure students see that it's impacting them can just help them support that. That's a great idea. I did want to mention, I really was excited to hear that some of the funds were spent on electric snowblowers. I didn't realize that could be a priority, and certainly it is in Canada. But so that, yeah, I was excited about that. What were some of the largest hesitations surrounding this fund when it was started? How'd you ease the worries of the board and approval groups? And I think you probably already answered this, but also the issue around fees, opt in, opt out, or just applied across the board. And I think you already mentioned it, but it might be worth reiterating, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna actually do some answering of the previous question as well because I think there was a part there that's actually really worth mentioning, and I want our students to hear it as well. Yes, we have. I always say that the Green Fund is not a science; it's an art. We can't, and I know our modern minds want absolute predictability and absolute, well, not necessarily absolute, but just, well, you usually fund this and you usually fund that, and therefore I want it to be there when I want it, and I don't care that you want that. Anybody who thinks like that, I think we need to be very flexible and leave things fluid because the needs of the university and the needs of sustainability are fluid. So we might fund a project when we have the funds. We might fund a project 1 year, and then a similar but even better written project later on will not get funded. And there's definitely some connection between the priorities that we have, and when I say we as the Office of Sustainability, I'm not thinking about ourselves as somebody with a special interest. We have a climate action plan we're trying to implement, and we definitely, out of the Office of Sustainability, are aware if some professor wants to get $200,000 to buy some instruments and go to Antarctica and do some research. And no, I mean, we don't want to give him that money, even though we love the research and we love the idea. And we've had that in the past. We have an amazing incubator for innovation here on campus, and there was a project that a student from the Green Fund was approached by this entity to do a big project. It was 350 something thousand. It was some tech that would not help us with anything. The students actually approved the project, but they weren't aware of the fact that we need to go through a procurement process, and that it's not over just because the project was approved. So we definitely try to funnel and balance things. We do have a green revolving fund. We call it the sustainability revolving fund, that is not connected to the green fund, and we try to do a lot of energy efficiency through that. But that one has a return on investment standard or criteria of about 5 to 8 years, and not all projects can do that, and it doesn't mean the project is not worthwhile. So sometimes, doing something for the envelope of a building is an awesome revolving fund project, but sometimes it's a better project to be with a green fund. Sometimes we've purchased electric vehicles straight up, and sometimes we said we'll cover the difference between a conventional alternative and the electric one. So it's kind of an art and a discussion, and we keep the students very much in the clear and in the know with that. So there's that transparency. We're not trying to just kind of like get them to do what we want. We talk, we discuss, we explain why we're thinking in a certain way that we're thinking, and sometimes the students disagree, and that's wonderful too. And to answer the other question, I would say that making the fee possible to opt out is important, because it can help with buffer a desire to try and waive the fee completely. And you can always tell somebody, if you don't like it, don't just opt out. Go ahead, Donald.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I hadn't really thought that through, what it meant, and that students will often actually opt in when they have the choice, because sustainability is more and more important, and that I can imagine gets around many of the issues. It's like,
Now,
well, they don't have to.
to be fair, we make the opt-in the default. To be
Yeah.
fair, we're not all that wonderful and magnanimous. I mean, we feel like when you think about the other fees that they pay and they have zero choice about, we feel like that there's always, on sustainability, there's always this onus and higher need to prove why. When it comes to athletics, you don't really get to, and you're paying a lot more. Which is, I love athletics. I'm all about sports. I'm an athlete myself in my previous life, so I get it. But the point here being is that we were willing to work with whatever conditions are in front of us and deal with any potential criticism and build that into the structure. Now, let me tell you, there are green funds, and our friends in the South don't necessarily, if I'm not mistaken, they charge $25 for the green fee, and I think that a big part of that is managed directly through their facilities department. I don't want to commit to what I'm saying, but that's what I understand. And there isn't that much of a student committee involvement aspect to it. I think that is a huge positive argument when you're moving forward, is your willingness to manage and run a student-led committee that does the work. And I think then educators by default are more interested, because after all, that's what we're here for. We're not here, to just save the planet. We're here to save the planet through educating students, and education has to be education. It can't be necessarily activism. So we're not coming at it from that. We're coming from, and the students could attest to that. We have a lot of very interesting discussions in our committee, and everything is open. Everything is fair game, and that really helps.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, it is fantastic to have students engaged in this way, but it doesn't come without a lot of work on their part, as well as on administration on your part, to make it all work. I mean, there's issues that come up all the time that you have to kind of work through, and it makes it a little more, or maybe a lot more complicated. But the value of that, because you're keeping in mind that what the purpose of an institution is to train and to give students an opportunity to learn about these kinds of things, is what you keep in mind. So that's it's an excellent point.
And it's not all rosy. It's actually been a very difficult road. We're not necessarily the example everybody should follow. I've had a staff member come in and say, why can't we just take $50,000 from the green fee every year so we have some operating budget? And it's a fair question. Other universities do that, and somehow I don't want to do that. But when I'm gone, maybe there'll be movement there. I can't tell you, and we're definitely not in a perfect financial state right now at the institution. So I just think that it's worth the effort. That's what we're here for, after all, for student education. And the more they get out of that education, the better you can justify all the work that we're doing.
Absolutely. No, and I think on that note, we've answered all the questions that have come in. It's been a fantastic presentation and conversation. I think that grappling with it's great, but there's also issues around it, and nothing's ever totally easy. So I really appreciate all the hard work that's been done by the committee on this presentation, and by you, Avi, as well as by the institution to make
I
this
didn't
all
realize
happen.
Paige was here. Paige.
Hi,
Paige is
Avi.
one of
Hi,
the
Green Fund.
hi, hi. Paige is a legendary ex-chair of the Green Fund. One of the best students we've ever had.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
It's true, but you have some good competition from this current committee, just so you know.
I know. This is excellent. This is a fantastic presentation. I'm so glad to see things moving forward really quickly. So, yeah.
Yeah, and excited to have this presentation to so many folks that otherwise might not get to hear about what's going on, and consider what they can do at their institution. So yeah, I really appreciate that, and I hope to get down to Arizona in the next few months to maybe see firsthand some of the work going on in your campus. So I think we've covered everything. I don't have an ending poll or anything, but I'll distribute this. Well, we've recorded it, and it'll be available for folks to see. And again, thanks very much, everybody who came. Thanks for this wonderful presentation and all the great work. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much, Donald. This was
Well,
great.
yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yep, I will be in contact.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. Sounds good.